How's it going, everybody? This is Dre, aka iStackSilver. Today, I'm going to be going into a little bit of the current event with the kidnapping that's being called the hashtag BLMkidnapping. BLM, obviously, being for Black Lives Matter. Um, it's absolutely disgusting what happened. And what I find particularly disgusting is the response to it. For those of you who don't know, there was a mentally disabled young man, a white man or boy, I guess. I believe he's a minor, who was kidnapped by four black people, young adults, taken somewhere. I don't know, tied up, beaten, uh, humiliated, had a gash busted open in the top of his head, which appeared to me to show like that it went down to his skull. Um, then he had cigarette ashes flicked into the open wound, taken to the bathroom, forced to drink toilet water while these fucking assholes scream, fuck Trump, fuck white people, like just absolutely disgusting excuses for human beings. I cannot believe what I saw. Um, this is one of the perpetrators, uh, a young, shitty looking chick by the name of Brittany Covington. It appears she was arrested. Um, then there is this other dude who I can't even pronounce that fucking name, but he was there, allegedly beating the shit out of this this poor kid. Now back to the response, because just like fucking clockwork, whenever something happens to somebody belonging to a specific group of people, or not a specific, but any group, something happens involving, you know, members of different groups usually, then the groups start to blame the other groups instead of focusing on the fucking crime and the victims. Something happens to a white guy, or something happens to a black guy by a white person. Suddenly, all white people are to blame. Uh, you know, uh, People start bringing up slavery and white privilege and white fragility and blah blah blah, like just that fucking word vomit. Something happens to a uh, a white guy by black people, and then I'd say a smaller minority of or at least less vocal minority of white people begin to you know uh, use this as an examples of what's wrong with black people. And there's just a lot of hate and mudslinging to go around, and somewhere within all of that fighting amongst the groups, the victims and the crimes themselves get lost in the mix. And I think this is the big problem with groups, or with identifying yourself as part of a group. Anyway, like clockwork, the 2017 race pimp, the new Al Sharpton, the new Jesse Jackson, Mr. Shaun King, has to weigh in on this. If you don't know who Shaun King is, he's somebody who was heavily involved with the Black Lives Matter movement. There's a bit of controversy when it came out that he was actually a white man who seemed to be pretending to be black. He went on to say, like, oh, all my siblings have different fathers. I don't know. I could be black. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Basically trying to distance himself from, from his whatever. Anyway, this man has gotten a lot of notoriety and a lot of profit off of attaching himself to this whole Black Lives Matter thing. He's got a cushy job at New York Daily News now as, what is it, the senior justice writer or whatever, correspondent. He recently signed on with the Young Turks, so you can imagine what kind of fucking drivel this guy spouts. And I'll go a little bit into this guy's article. He says, in Chicago, at least 4 young black men and women did something truly awful. On a damn Facebook Live video made public Wednesday, they allegedly kidnapped a mentally challenged white man, beat him, humiliated him, cut his hair, yelled fuck Donald Trump and fuck white people while filming it for the world to see. All of which is absolutely correct. I just arrived back in America this morning after a week away and just watched a video moments ago. It's awful. I have deep empathy for the victim. 20 years ago, a racist mob of white men beat me so bad that I missed 18 months of high school recovering from 3 spinal surgeries and fractures to my face and ribs. Now, before I go any further, I want to address this attack that he has talked about a whole lot. Apparently, according to police in the area, there's really no record of this. I mean, there was a report filed, police showed up, whatever, and they said his injuries were minor. People that attended the school that it happened at said that he just stopped going to that school and went to another one. Like, it wasn't a big thing that had him, clinging to life. At least, according to what the police said, that, his injuries were minor. So 3 spinal surgeries and, a fucked up broken face and all of that shit. Apparently the cops didn't see any of that. And then he says these guys were racist. Were they beating him up because he was black? Probably not, because he's not black. And I don't want to, do this whole like, oh, you ain't like me shit. Like, I don't really care. Like, as far as skin color goes, I don't care about particular groups of people. I don't care about white people. I don't care about black people. I don't. That shit is I don't know. That shit is retarded to me. But anyway, he throws this out at like every chance he gets to talk about, how he was savagely beaten, left for dead, and there's that whole story seems extremely suspect. Anyway, on with the article. It says, I hate violence. Nearly 100 people are killed with guns per day in this country. Every 98 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted in this country. Hate crimes are on the rise from coast to coast. Our incoming president of the United States admitted that he sexually assaults women. So already he's going off the rails, because he's not talking about the victim anymore. He's just throwing out, the anti-gun stats and all of that bullshit. And then he goes on to attack Trump, which I am no fan of. Don't get me wrong. I'm no fan of any politician ever. But when you say something fake, it's fake. Because if you listen to what Donald Trump said, and I assume he's referring to the recorded audio between him and Billy Bush, Trump never said anything about assaulting women. If you listen and actually understand what the man was saying, it was some arrogant dickhead shit. But he never said anything about sexually assaulting women. What he said is that when you're rich and powerful, you can just do that shit. To say that women just let you do that shit. And anybody who argues that is false, just think about a lot of your friends or people that you have met, when it comes to a lot of women and men, but specifically we're talking about women here because this is the lie that's being told about Donald Trump concerning women. So think about a lot of women that you've met, and this is a lot of women that I've met too, from all over. When it comes to people like, The Rock or 50 Cent or whoever, Trey Songz or whoever, like they immediately get on that dude do whatever the fuck he wants, like, because, and it's not because they know these people at all. It's not because, they're good people, because Nobody really knows these people. They're fucking celebrities. But the fact that they are famous, some are handsome, some are extremely talented. That is a reason a lot of women to let the rich and powerful get away with this shit, because they don't care. A lot of people just want to be next to power and money because they feel as though they might be able to get a little power and money from it. Right? It's just some self-interest shit. And being a rich and powerful man, you would have to be a complete fucking moron to not notice that you can now have people accept you doing shit that you couldn't do before the money and the power came. Like, everybody knows that. You get treated differently when you have a certain status. All right? That's not about sexually assaulting women. All right. He never said anything about I'll just walk up to women and grab them by the pussy, and if they say something, I'll smack shit out of them. Like, there was none of that. He just said you can do this, and he didn't say all women. He just said you can do it. And somebody who says shit like that, there's probably somebody who's done it and has gotten no flack about it, and that's what makes you arrogant enough to be like, yo, you can just do this shit. So that's a flat out fucking lie. Anyway. Let's get back to this bullshit article. Okay. Women all over the country came forward to allegedly confirm it. What the fuck is allegedly confirm? It's either you confirm it or you don't. They have alleged that he's done it. Surprisingly, this shit never came about until, he was running for president, because that's what happens during presidential elections. People try their hardest to dig up dirt. A lot of these women have completely dropped their suits or just disappeared because the election isn't on the line anymore. So I'm not calling these people liars. I'm not saying that they're telling the truth, but it's just highly suspicious that all of these people come out the woodwork when somebody's running for office and then they disappear right after. Let's see. I'll skip over this because this is just talking more bullshit. Let's see. This country is sick. However, I see thousands of white folks asking me why I'm not speaking about it. Beyond the fact that I literally just got back in the country. Okay, we get it, dude. Like you're traveling the world. To me, that's that humble bragging shit where you wanna let people know that like you're doing fancy shit without seeming like a prick, but you keep finding a way to mention that you're doing shit. Like, we get it, man. You flew on a plane. Anyway, beyond the fact that I just got back in the country a few hours ago with my wife and my 5 kids, my answer is simple. As soon as I clicked on the first official story about the incident, I saw that 4 people had already been arrested for it. If more people were involved, whether it was 2 or more black folk, or 20, guess what? They'll be charged and arrested, convicted, and sentenced and jailed for it as well. We will see their mugshots and videos of them walking into court with jail clothes any minute now. That's how justice works in America. If you truly believe that, then you would have no career. All right. Everything that comes out of your mouth is bitching about how the justice system doesn't work. But, when it comes to a white guy, you're just like, whatever. The justice system works. Like, which is it? Or maybe you're just saying that, it only works when white people are concerned, which is exactly what he's going to go on to say, which is bullshit. Although there is a lot of, there's a lot of disparity between, the justice that minorities get versus, people of other races or whatever. And there are a lot of things that factor into that. There is no just, oh, well, because white people. And that's essentially his argument. Let's see. This country does not need me to speak about crimes committed by black folk. I'm really like, what the fuck is with this black folk shit? Because nobody in this country is held more responsible for the crimes they commit, and even the crimes they don't commit, than black folk in America. Well, there are a lot of people sitting in prison right now, of all races. And, if you want to talk about who makes up most of that population, yeah, there's a ton of fucking black people. There's a ton of Hispanics and all that shit. But there are also a ton of white people in jail for shit that they did or didn't do. Like, the system is fucked up as a total. But, instead of attacking the system for just being a complete mess, it's just basically, oh, well, black people because white people. Let's see. Country does not need me to speak about blah blah blah. Let's see. Right now, young black men in America are incarcerated at a rate higher than the South Africans at the height of apartheid. All right, I won't argue with that. America jails more people pretty much than any place on the planet. So, it's not just that it's locking up about a lot of black people. Like, they're just, they're number one with that shit, period. I speak out on injustice. Well, you just got done saying that you weren't going to speak out about this, which was clearly an injustice. I mean, these people kidnapped a poor, defenseless, mentally disabled man and beat the shit out of him. But, maybe that's not an injustice in your book. Let's see. What happened to this man in Chicago was terrible. It was criminal. I hate it. But guess what? Justice was swift. It was miraculously swift. Okay, so I guess he's talking about the legal system, which, no. I mean, no. there's no justice in this so-called justice system. But my major concern about this is that regardless of whether the people involved in a crime are caught or whatever, like this man, if they are black, he will lose his shit because he knows that he can milk this for views and clicks and eventually dollars. But this man is the wrong color, so it just doesn't jive. So he's just, taking a creative way of just kind of dismissing this as, oh, well, yeah, whatever, they kidnapped, tortured, and did blah, 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 blah. Or instead of dealing with the act, maybe the motivations, the mindset of these people that got them so riled up to beat this man screaming, fuck white people, fuck Trump, all this shit. Maybe it's because of people like Shaun King who can't even make it 70 words into an article without taking an opportunity to talk about how he believes Donald Trump is a sexual predator. Maybe it's shit like that encourages people to do horrible things like this. Anyway, I mean, ultimately, people are responsible for their own actions. But I mean, when you have the media constantly beating shit into people's heads, especially if they're the types of people, which a lot of people are, who don't do much research for themselves, they just wait for someone to tell them what to think. Well, then this is what you get. You get people that just buy it. And, a lot of times they act on the information they have, which is very limited and biased. Let's see. It says justice is always swift and easy when black folks mess up. That's not true at all. Like, I, actually kind of grew up black. So anyway. But who's not in jail right now? George Zimmerman. Who's not in jail right now? The officers who fired 41 shots and killed somebody, can't pronounce the name, in front of his doorstep, blah, 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 blah. And then he just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on about basically, this is the clever way that he takes a story about a tragedy that happened to a defenseless white kid, and he spins it in a way that allows him to start trashing white people. I don't know. Why don't you want to be white, Shaun? I mean, you are white. Why don't you want to be white? Like, what is it about being you that you hate? Like, why do you hate yourself? I don't know. Anyway, let's see. I'm still trying to scroll past all the who's not in jail. Like, we get it, and because there are a lot of people of all races who commit terrible crimes, who get off really fucking easily, who aren't in jail. So, you're not gonna hit me with this bullshit that people of one skin color are the only people who get away with crimes. It happens all the time with a lot of people. Hell, OJ Simpson's sitting in prison right now, but guess what? He's not in prison for killing his wife. It comes, like, a lot of the shit comes down to money, and in a lot of times, a lot of white people have more money. A lot of them were raised in better homes and got better education, but that is not their fault. Like, that's not a bad thing that you are comfortable enough to raise your kids properly in, and more often families that include a mother and a father. There are a lot of things that factor into this, but yeah, you're not gonna spin this shit into, because white people. Like, fuck that shit, man. Like, there's too much of this going on. People just accept it, and you're basically just taking another opportunity to capitalize on a fucking tragedy, and to spew your fucking hate bullshit. Anyway, after he goes on to all of the what people who aren't in jail right now for shit, then he goes, we march for them, we protest for them, I write about them on Facebook and tweet about them because justice has not been served in those cases, almost never is. And there's a lot of shit that happens where, I mean, if we're talking legally, quote unquote, justice is served, but that shit doesn't make the news. So you want shit that makes people angry. You want shit that everybody's tweeting about, because that's what gets you clicks, that's what gets you views, that's what gets you dollars. So he has no interest in talking about any of that shit because it's not popular. It's not something that translates into money. Anyway, just Tuesday, a video surfaced of a police officer in North Carolina high school, in a North Carolina high school, slamming a petite 15-year-old black girl so hard her head, it gave her head a concussion. Do you think he's in jail? Nah, he's on paid leave. Do you know how fucking often that happens when cops do that shit to people of many different races? Do you know how fucking often that shit happens? Like, there are tons of cops right now that do despicable shit to a lot of different people, and then they basically get paid vacation for it. It's not just obviously the person that got hurt was black, and obviously the cop was white, therefore nothing's going to happen to the cop, and it's because one was black and one was white. Like, that's bullshit. Cops do a lot of shit to people, and just people in general do a lot of terrible shit, and I don't really see people like Shaun King addressing any of that. I don't really remember Shaun King ever going into depth about Kelly Thomas, who was basically just beaten to death by cops. He's a homeless dude, and they beat the fuck out of him. And that right there is what he was saying as he was being beat. Like it was basically torture, and he died. It's fucking terrible. This is what he looked like after they got done with him. That's what they did to this man's face. I don't remember any marches headed by Shaun King. I don't remember a bunch of articles. I don't remember a bunch of talk about injustice when it comes to somebody like Kelly Thomas, because obviously he's the wrong color, and it goes against the narrative of white people are evil and they get away with everything. What about this guy? Did he get away with everything? I mean, was he so privileged just because he was white? Right? I mean, that doesn't go along with the privilege narrative. The man was homeless. They beat the fuck out of him, and he's dead. I don't remember him wilding out over this lady handcuffed, sitting on a curb, get fucking stomped. Well, not stomped, but kicked hard as fuck in the side of the head. Just kicked. I mean, this woman is literally defenseless. And this officer, who has all the power and control over the situation already, right? Because that's what the cops are supposed to do when they step in and they're dealing with somebody unruly or whatever. They're supposed to get control of this situation. He already has all of that. And for some reason, he still finds it necessary or acceptable to kick the fuck out of this lady who's handcuffed, sitting on a curb. I don't remember any articles about her from Mr. Shaun King. I don't remember him mobilizing any marches or asking for donations or whatever. I don't remember none of that shit. What about during the riots? I believe, I don't know, one of the recent riots. Whatever. There's been a lot of fucking coonery. But, you know, during one of the recent riots, this man was stripped naked and had the shit beat out of him in a parking garage. Why? Because he was there and he was white. That's why. Like, there was no reason for that shit. I don't remember anybody screaming for justice. Well, anybody by the name of Shaun King tweeting and Facebooking and writing articles about justice for this guy, because he's not the right color. He's not something that translates into a lot of views and, you know, eventually money and increased notoriety for people like Shaun King. Or this homeless guy. He was just there. He was just there and just white. That's it. And they kicked the fuck out of this guy. That clip right there, that picture, that is the guy basically like stepping in from some feet away with a lot of momentum, just as he's about to kick the shit out of that homeless guy. And they just laugh. Like, it's cool. Like, fuck it. He's white. Obviously, you know, white people are the problem, blah, 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 blah. Because nobody's actually talking about the actual issues. They're just talking about why white people suck on the media, on, you know, mainstream media. They're just talking about why people are bad, why white people are privileged, why it's so much better to be white. I mean, basically just the constantly beating people in the head with the notion that, you know, somehow just existing as white is somehow an injustice. And there's plenty of racism to go around. There is plenty of it. And it's not just coming from white people. And in my own personal experience, most of the racism I've ever experienced or witnessed in my life came specifically from black people. And I'm somebody who grew up in the fucking slums. My neighborhood was so bad, the shit doesn't exist anymore. They tore that whole fucking shit down just to get rid of us. Oh, man. Oh, boy. But yeah. Then there's the white girl that, you know, she got arrested for a DWI. And, you know, apparently the cop was trying to take a mugshot and she didn't want to cooperate. Like, fuck them. You know, she didn't want to cooperate. I mean, she wasn't violent or anything. She just wouldn't hold her head in the right direction so they could take the picture. So the cop lost his fucking shit. Basically dragged her back to the little holding cell. And I'm not going to post that picture because that shit hurts me. But he drags her back to the holding cell and just launches her into the room, face first. And she smashes her face up against like a little concrete bed area that they have for, you know, for the people that they're holding. And she smashes her fucking face up. Look at this shit. It says the face first impact with the concrete fractured the woman's right orbital bone, loosened some of her teeth, and opened a deep cut on her cheek. The orbital fracture required reconstructive surgery, during which a titanium plate was inserted in the woman's cheek. She also suffers vision and dental problems as a result of the incident, prosecutors say. Now, I'm not absolutely sure, but I do believe that particular cop received some sort of punishment for it. But if that had been a person of color, and the same thing had happened, and punishment had been doled out in some fashion, people like Shaun King would have still written an article about, oh, well, this is how black people are routinely treated, and da-da-da-da. So it's not about justice with people like him. It's just about screaming and crying and fanning the particular type of flame that gets people riled up enough to just randomly beat the shit out of white people and just be blatantly, openly racist and not care, because that's acceptable nowadays. In the media, they have been basically just shitting on white people, and it's always odd to me, because it's usually like old white people telling everybody why white people suck. I never quite understood that shit. But basically, that's what they've been doing for so long, that it's okay to be openly racist. Which in turn makes people feel more comfortable to just treat people of different races like shit. Most of the black people that I know or have been friends with, I mean, just constantly, just casually, just shit on white people just because. And I've always found that insane. Like these people are just existing with a certain skin color that they had no input or control over. That's just who they are. They were just accidentally born the way that they are. And you just start attributing all kind of crazy shit to them just because they're white. And then on the same turn, you would be so mortified and offended if somebody did the same thing to you. I don't like the world. These things don't just happen to black people. Bad things don't just happen to black people. Take this young child, for example, 6 years old. The cops lit him the fuck up. He's dead. They lit him and his daddy up. And the dad got fucked up, but that kid is dead. He's gone. Apparently there was a chase, but there was nothing to warrant just opening fire. It says officers Greenhouse and Stafford opened fire on the car, pumping 18 rounds into the vehicle. Christopher Few was hit twice. That's the father, and has bullet fragments in his head and lungs. He's in critical condition. His young son was hit 5 times in the head and chest. He died in his fucking car seat. A third officer called in for backup, recorded the shooting with his police body camera. The officer has stated that Few was not acting in a threatening manner toward police. Few did not have a warrant for his arrest, and there was no weapon found in the vehicle. So basically, these cops just, I mean, they just lit this fucking car up. They just lit it the fuck up without regard to who was in the car, what they were doing, if there was any sort of threat, like whatever. Like they just fucking did it. It's not just black people. It's not. These are the cops that lit the car up. People of color. Somehow that wasn't really reported on by many people, because it doesn't fit the fucking narrative. It doesn't fit the narrative that all white people are bad. It doesn't fit the narrative. There's no clicks, views, or money in going against the narrative. Like right now, the whole fuck white people trend, like that's the new hot shit right now. just be racist, to shit on white people as much as you fucking can, because that's the acceptable thing. And this doesn't serve that purpose. So, you know, we can't run that. We're not writing articles about that. Oh, it's a tragedy, but, you know, whatevs. Oh, man. People fucking disgust me. Especially like the Christopher McKnight. Had the shit beat out of him outside a baseball game. Apparently, there's a little like hip hop thing going on at the same time. It looks like they both kind of let out around the same time. And, you know, the guy, you know, it seems like he was waiting for the bus and he might have accidentally bumped into somebody. And then they beat the fuck out of him. They beat the shit out of this man just because. But, you know, if this had happened to a black person, there would have been all of the outrage in the world. But, you know, he's white, so fuck him. He's already privileged. I mean, look, he has a Nike shirt. He's obviously privileged. No. There's no news. There's no ad revenue. There's no clicks in that. Like, fuck it. We're not running it. I just want people to do better, man. Like, seriously. There's no reason to keep spreading this type of hate. Like, this type of divisiveness is extremely profitable. And I'm not against profit at all. I mean, everything everybody does is for profit, right? If you do something, it's because you get something out of it. And I'm not just talking about money. You gain something for everything you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it unless you're being forced to do it. But I mean, this, like, just the motives behind like today's current popular narrative is complete bullshit. And people fall for it hook, line, and sinker. I mean, turn on MSNBC right now. Seriously, I really want you to do this. I want you to turn on MSNBC right now. And for the second you turn to that channel, start a timer. And stop the timer as soon as they begin to talk about whiteness, white privilege, or just as soon as they start to shit on white people, stop the timer. And, you know, don't include commercial breaks. Just from whatever show was on, when it comes back, start the timer and then just wait for them and see how long it takes. And it, do that several times in a row. You know, go to CNN, do it. Go to Fox, see how long it takes for them to, you know, start shitting on Mexicans. Like, just go to any of these channels and just do it and see, and do it a few times and see how often it comes up and how quickly it just keeps coming up. Because that's what they butter their bread with. It's the new hot shit. You know, according to, you know, these types of people, black people can't even be racist, which is fucking insane. And I know from firsthand experience that's bullshit, because I was somebody who grew up in the slums, and you know, people who grow up in very poor, bad areas, especially like projects, shit like that. There is it's not uncommon for, you know, tons of people in that area to be related, where, you know, a lot of the people in the area they're just cousins, because, you know, people never really leave. So when I showed up when I was 3 years old, with my grandmother and my grandfather. My grandfather died when I was 7, and I was stuck with my grandmother. Well, she was stuck with me. And she was a little old white German lady. And so basically I'm in this area of South Jersey by myself in a neighborhood where most of the people are related, because that's just how it goes. And I got the shit beat out of me constantly. I got my house broken in repeatedly, completely fucking ransacked for no reason. A lot of the times that happened, nothing was even taken. Like, they just wanted to fucking do it. Break in the house, destroy everything, and then leave. Family car stolen several times. I remember one specific time I got jumped in a school in a school near a parking lot near my house by like I don't know, between 7 to 9 people. And I was, and it wasn't just a regular beating. Like I got stomped, I got punched, I got smacked with 2x4s, bikes thrown on top of me repeatedly. Like I stumbled home half dead, covered in blood. And it took me a couple of weeks to recover from that. And the reason I'm sharing all of this is because all of this shit happened to me specifically because my grandmother was white. Like, that was it. That was fucking it. I remember, like, even when I would get into arguments with people, at school, at home, around the neighborhood, no matter what I said, like, the response was usually, "Oh yeah, well, that's why your grandma white." Like that's an argument, but that was the type of hate that that I received just because a member of my family had the wrong color. So I ended up making most of my friends of the white people and Hispanics. I had some black friends, but for the most part, people who were black didn't want to fuck with me just because of that. That was it. There was no reason. I wasn't loud or offensive. I was actually a pretty quiet, shy kid. And just me being connected in some way to someone who was of the wrong color just was completely unacceptable. To the point where I almost lost my life a couple times just for it. So you're not going to sit up here and give me this bullshit about how only white people are racist, and white people don't experience racism, and like all of this bullshit, or black people can't be racist. Because the majority of racism I experienced in my life was from black people. And I'm not throwing all black people under the bus, because like I said, I don't see people sorry about that. I don't see people in groups. But people like the people who gave me a terrible childhood experience, people like Shaun King, people like those in the mainstream media who craft the narrative. Like, these are people who look at everyone as groups, and then they use that to their advantage, for money or notoriety, or they use it as an excuse to beat the fuck out of some poor defenseless kid while screaming "fuck white people," because whatever, that's the new hot shit. I just want people to really just examine themselves. Take some time to think about how much, especially those who aren't in great situations. Like, I really just want you to kind of think about how often are you blaming somebody else who belongs to another group for your situation. I mean, whether it be, white or Christian or Jewish or whatever. Like, how often are you doing it? Like, I want you to be conscious of your own actions, and I want you to try to call bullshit on yourself, because this, that's something that's very difficult for people to do at times, especially on the internet. You look at anything on the internet, and it's very clear that everybody believes that they are automatically right going into the conversation or debate or argument or whatever. Like, you can't tell these people on the internet nothing. Everybody's a fucking genius. Well, I mean, common sense should tell you that everybody can't be right about everything all the time. And what happens is that since everybody assumes that they're right all the time, they just end up speaking past each other all the time. And then that leads to stupid, dumbass arguments, you know, a lot of group think, people just attaching themselves to some group. And then once you do that, well, obviously there's got to be another group out there that is to blame for everything that is wrong with you or your life or whatever. You know, nobody's ever responsible for their own actions. And I feel like the sooner people start to be a little bit more honest with themselves and about their situations and about their effort or lack of effort to change their situations, the better off everyone as a whole will be. I mean, yeah, there's issues, man. There's fucking issues with the justice system, of course. I don't think it works. I don't think there is justice in that system. It's a system, but it's not a justice system. And who decides what justice is? You know, a lot of times these crimes get committed, and the sentences are harsh as fuck, or they're slaps on the wrist. But you know, according to the justice system, that's justice, right? They have the final say on it. So if they say it's justice, that's justice. That ain't right. You know, so yeah, there are some. It's a very flawed, shitty system. But acknowledge that, and then don't just say, oh, you know, it's a flawed system because white people or because Jews or because this or because that. Like, it's just a fucked up system. Blame the system itself. Figure out what to do about the system. Figure out how to get around that shit. Don't just blame each other. Like, blaming each other has, I mean, what is that doing for you? What has that ever really done for you? Just constantly blaming everybody else for everything, shitting on everybody else. Do you know the relationships that you're blocking off? You know, the potential relationships, the opportunities for networking that you're denying yourself just because you have such hatred for a group of people just for existing a certain way. I just think about the victims, man. Like that's really what I just want to leave you with. Just please give a little thought to the actual victims of these crimes. And when you see these crazy stupid ass debates popping off on Twitter and Facebook, like don't join into it. Don't join into it. If you really want to help, arguing on the internet is not going to do that. Why don't you reach out to the victim and their family, see what they need? I'm sure that that little boy and his parents are probably scared to death right now. I'm sure he's got medical expenses. He's probably going to need some serious counseling. Like, why don't you chip in? Start a GoFundMe for that kid and his parents. Don't waste your time arguing on the internet. Like, that's not going to gain you anything. And ignore the race baiters, the people that try to drag you into this whole, you know, blame whitey or blame the darkies or whatever it is bullshit snake oil they're selling. Like, just ignore them. They're not here for you. They're here for themselves. They want to take your anger and they want to increase it. And then once they increase it, then they want to convert that into revenue through their articles or videos or their, you know, their news appearances. That's what it is. Like, you're being used. And that's why I say, like, man, you got to keep your emotions in check, because if people can figure out what makes you tick, you can be manipulated easy. Like, you can be controlled. If I know exactly the right word to say to you to get you to do a certain thing, then I have control over you, because I can use that shit to my advantage any fucking time I want. And there are a lot of people that understand this. And I need for you all to understand this too. Like, don't let yourself get used and played by these people, because that's what they're doing. They're playing you. All right, I'm done. I'm done, man. Like I'm thoroughly disgusted. Um, yeah, I'll be in touch. But in the meantime, if you want to continue the conversation, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, iStackSilver, PSN, iStackSilver. Um, if you like where this went, if you wanna help spread the conversation, or you have somebody that you feel might need to see this, then please feel free to share it. Likes always help. Subscribe. Let me know that what I'm doing is worth it. If you think it's really worth it, you want to support me, then feel free to donate on Patreon. And yeah, that's it for me. I'll be in touch.